For over a century, there's been this tiny intestinal microbe just hiding in plain sight. It's called Dientamoeba fragilis, and it is an organism that's just full of contradictions. For the longest time, we really weren't sure if it was just a harmless passenger along for the ride, or maybe a hidden cause of disease.
So let's just get right to it and ask the big question. Could this actually be the most overlooked parasite living in the human gut? Well, the answer is complicated, and it's going to take us on this fascinating detective story through microbiology, epidemiology, and some really cool modern medicine.
Okay, so let's start with the absolute basics. At its core, Dientamoeba fragilis is a single-celled organism, a protozoan, that sets up shop in our large intestine. Seems pretty simple, right? Well, this is exactly where the mystery begins.
Because the very first clue that something is a bit off with this organism is its name. It's a total misnomer, basically a historical mistake that's been causing confusion for decades.
And that brings us to our first piece of the puzzle. What's in a name? To really get what this parasite is, we first have to understand what it isn't.
So that name is our first misleading clue. The amoeba part, it makes you think of something that just kind of oozes around, like a classic blob. But it turns out modern genetics shows it's actually a flagellate. It moves using a whip-like tail. Then you've got the fragilis part, which means, well, fragile. And that part is true. It refers to its active feeding stage called a trophozoite, which just falls apart really quickly outside the body because it doesn't have a protective outer shell, or what we call a cyst.
Okay, so this little naming puzzle, it quickly blows up into a global one, with a really strange contradiction found in one specific country, the Netherlands.
First, you gotta know that Dientamoeba fragilis is found all over the world. It has what we call a cosmopolitan distribution. It's a parasite mostly of humans, and it's especially common in kids. So far, this all sounds like a pretty standard story for an intestinal microbe.
But this is where our detective story takes a really sharp turn. The situation in the Netherlands has presented researchers with this baffling paradox that challenges pretty much everything we thought we knew about this parasite being a pathogen.
Just look at this data. In the Netherlands, it's one of the most frequently detected protozoa out there. It spreads super easily in households. About 30% of close contacts end up testing positive. And get this, a huge number of those people, 80%, report having symptoms. So it's not just something people are bringing back from vacation. It's right there, established in the local environment. And this, right here, this illustrates the central mystery perfectly. A major Dutch study found that Dientamoeba fragilis was actually less common in patients with stomach problems than it was in healthy, symptom-free adults. So wait a minute, how can a parasite be more common in healthy people? This one finding just fueled a massive debate. Is it a pathogen, a harmless bystander, or something else entirely? This leads us to the next big question mark. If it's so common, how on earth does it get from one person to another, especially if its name literally means it's fragile? The life cycle itself has been the subject of intense speculation for years. So here's the official diagram from the CDC, showing its life cycle. You can see the parasite hanging out in the colon where it multiplies. But the key question has always been about transmission. How does this delicate little organism get from one person's gut to another's? This diagram hints at two main theories, and they've been debated for a long, long time. The first theory is pretty simple, fecal-oral transmission. That's now considered the most likely. But for decades, scientists have been chasing this other idea, called the pinworm hypothesis. The idea is that this fragile parasite hitches a ride inside the tough, durable eggs of the common pinworm, kind of using them as a Trojan horse to survive the journey between hosts. It's a brilliant theory, but to this day, it's still unproven. Part of the reason this parasite remained a mystery for so long is that it was incredibly difficult to even find. And for a detective, there's nothing worse than an invisible suspect. But the game completely changed with the arrival of modern PCR tests. Think of it like a DNA photocopier. Instead of trying to spot one pale, hard-to-see parasites under a microscope, PCR finds a tiny piece of its unique DNA and just makes millions of copies until it's super easy to detect. This breakthrough finally gave us a reliable way to see just how common this thing truly is, and it's now the standard of care in the Netherlands and a lot of other European labs. Okay, so now we can find it. But what do we do about it? Well, this brings us to another area of disagreement: how to treat it. Back in the Netherlands, where this parasite is a major focus, they have a really clear protocol. The first choice drug is paromycin, But the interesting part is their second choice, cleoquinol. Dutch research actually found it was way more effective in kids than the more commonly used drug, metronidazole. Now, let's compare that to the broader international and CDC recommendations. Globally, a drug called iodoquinol is often considered a top choice. Metronidazole is still used all the time, even though it has a failure rate of over 20%. This difference between what's done in the Netherlands and the international guidelines just shows that the medical community is still figuring out the best way to tackle this infection.
So, after a whole century of confusion, are we finally getting some clear answers? Yes, absolutely. Modern science is now giving us the tools to solve the case of Dientamoeba fragilis once and for all.
Recent breakthroughs are finally cracking the case. By sequencing its genes, scientists have found potential weapons it might be using to irrigate the gut. They've also found 2 distinct genetic types, which might explain why it bothers some people and not others. And maybe most importantly, in a mouse study, they proved it can cause intestinal inflammation, or colitis. This was huge. It's the scientific equivalent of catching the suspect red-handed, proving it can cause disease all on its own. Now it's taken so seriously that it's routinely screened for in fecal transplant donors.
We actually compiled all the research for this explainer using a Gemini deep search. If you want to dive even deeper into the science, and I mean, why wouldn't you can find a full list of our sources in the linked Notebook LM document.
And hey, if you enjoyed unraveling this mystery with us, please subscribe to the channel and let us know what you think down in the comments. Your feedback really does help us create more explainers just like this one.
So we'll leave you with a final thought. Dientamoeba fragilis went from being this misnamed, harmless microbe to a recognized, though still really complex pathogen. It just makes you wonder, what other microbes that we currently think of as harmless might just be hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right tools to come along and reveal their true nature?